So when you see progress, you see possibility. And it is very comparable to running. When you run, you do a little more and a little more, and you start seeing that, and your set point changes for one thing. I remember when I was running, I had like a 3-mile set point. And no matter what happened, I could be feeling fine. And when I hit 3 miles, all of a sudden I was exhausted. So that was a set point for me on that. Totally a mind game. It had nothing to do with whether I could actually run another mile or two. It was just in my head, and suddenly my body just would get tired because I thought it should at 3 miles. So it's very similar with money. So if we don't believe we can have these wins, if we don't believe good things can happen to us with our money, or we can make things happen with our money, then we're going to stay stuck. And so it's important to notice. It's important to notice wins. Anything you track, whether it's, your mileage when you're running or your money, it's very important to pay attention, to see, because not only do you see that, oh, I've made some progress. I mean, you could take all those and just quantify them, and it would be pretty interesting. Some of them, will help you now. Some of them will help you in the future, but there's definitely a money gain there. So noticing that you can create this on your own, there were things she did to make sure that these money wins were happening. So that's important. And just purely to notice that they exist, that you are, despite, the losses all over the place, you are winning. You can win.
Your relationship with money matters. I'm Michelle Perkins, and this is the Money and You podcast, where I will be breaking down your relationship with money, offering tough love money tips, and a money dating plan that will focus on lifting the barriers to success to help pave the way for better money practices and increased wealth. It's time to take control to live a limit-free life. It starts today.
Hello, and welcome to the Money and You show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. We have another solo show today. I'm going to join you to talk a little about financial winning. How do you feel like you're winning with your finances? It's a kind of an odd question. I'm not sure many people have asked themselves this, but what I do know is that people are chasing a win. They might not have even defined it, but everybody is wanting to do better with money, to make more, to build wealth, to be rich, to be comfortable, whatever it is that a particular person wants. Because again, success can be defined however you want to define it. That's the whole limit-free life idea. There's no one way to financial success. There's no one way to career success. There's no one way to really anything. So I really want to talk about this sense, though, that we're always chasing money, that we're never quite satisfied where we are. And you might have that feeling in your career, too. And when I work with career changers, we do a lot of deep dives into this. Like, how do you get that feeling that you are satisfied, that you're fulfilled? And I really want to talk to you about that with respect to money, because if it's always a chase, if we're always running, if there's never an end, it's exhausting, right? And it doesn't feel good. So it's like that race that doesn't actually have a finish line. And you're running and you're pushing yourself and you're doing all the things right. And you've trained and you've learned and you've done everything, but there really isn't a finish line. So it isn't very satisfying, even when you stop, because you never knew how far you needed to go. And so I love to think about money differently. I wanted to actually look this up before I got on the air today, and maybe I'll try looking it up while I'm talking to you. That would be tricky. But there's this whole science of behavioral finance these days, and behavioral economics, and there's financial therapy. There's all this stuff about money that we never learned in the earlier days. It was all about the practical stuff. Do this, do that, budget, save, and that's all important. I mean, I'm not dismissing that. It is super important. And I teach a lot of that. But what is behind all of our decision making? I feel like I've said it so many times. I'm sorry if you've heard it a million times. But what's behind all of it are your emotions, your feelings. and your thoughts and beliefs. And so when we manage those well, we can make better decisions. We will make better decisions. So it's very important to understand this area, and it's becoming pretty well known that it's important to understand it. So here we go. Let's look for 1 second here. Behavioral finance proposes that psychological influences and biases affect the financial behaviors of investors and financial practitioners. Moreover, influences and biases can be the source for the explanation of all types of market anomalies, and specifically market anomalies in the stock market. That's not really what we want to talk about right now. So let's go back to just psychological influences and biases affecting financial behavior. And we all know this about advertising. If you advertise in a way that evokes emotion, the Dove ads are brilliant at this. So you have these ads that just have you in tears after 30 seconds, and you're so moved. You make decisions based on that. And advertisers have known that forever. I'm not really sure why money people and the financial world hasn't understood that, but your emotions are very persuasive. That's why advertisers use them. So I think we need to be very aware of that, because our emotions, again, are driving us, or whatever the emotion is. And we want to be on a little bit of a high with money, like a good vibe, a good energy level. So we have to cultivate that. That doesn't just happen. It's like a runner's high. You don't get that without running. So, I've been thinking about that a lot too, because my son started running and he feels so good after. And I remember when I was a runner, and just that feeling like you were on top of the world, you could do anything. And I think we need to cultivate that with money, because that is the feeling of winning. And what we want as much as anything is the feeling. The feeling leads to decisions that lead to actions that actually, in real life have us winning. But the feeling is more important than anything, I'd say. So if you feel great about money, if you feel good about money, if you feel secure, whatever the feeling is, we have to define every level of this. So we have to define what it feels like to be winning. What are the feelings that you actually want to have that would make you believe that, yeah, I'm winning at this. I'm doing well. I'm not just chasing and feeling drained and exhausted and defeated. So, and I think that's the way a lot of the world operates with money. And it's a sad thing. I think my mission really is becoming to just change the whole game around money. It shouldn't be what it is. It's so fear-based. It's so scary. It's so, people just walk around feeling like they're on edge. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who were successful, had great jobs, had great salaries, great future, who literally feared becoming, especially women, becoming bag ladies. That's what it used to be called. Now, I guess, it would be an unhoused person. But back in the day, that's the term that people would use. And they would literally have this fear. They would walk around going to their nice offices with this fear in mind. And it's not them. It's really all of us. There is such a fear. I guess we could do a whole show on where that all comes from, but I think we shouldn't do that right now. And it's just something to know. It's something to have an awareness of. We walk around in this survival mode where we believe if we worry enough, if we're fearful enough, if we're cautious enough, somehow we'll protect ourselves, and we'll protect ourselves from this whole money game that we're almost forced to play. Everybody has to play it. If you decide not to, you're going to have a very different life, and you can do that. You can, exit normal society and figure that one out. But for most of us, we are that's the way our society works. That our society is very much integrated with money, and our lives are consequently integrated with money. And so it's if you look at it on a little more of a philosophical level, we have to learn this game, and we have to learn to enjoy the game. Games are supposed to be fun. Winning should feel good. It shouldn't feel like you've just escaped death. So I hope people can kind of get a new psychology around money. It really bothers me that from the time you leave college or maybe high school or whatever it is, that suddenly you're thrown into this, scary arena where you have to make it work or you're going to have, X consequence. So, okay, that's all kind of dark and depressing, but let's get on to how we feel really good about money, because money is actually something you can be very creative with. You can find creative ways to run your financial life. Will there be circumstances that happen that impact it? Absolutely. Money comes in, money goes out. And I think that's like one of the first things to accept when it comes to money, and that will help you to feel like you're winning. Because if you kind of have a hoarding mentality with money, it's not going to work, because it does go. We spend it. We use it for things. And thankfully, that's what it's for, right? So you can't expect for everything that comes in to be locked down somewhere. So, yeah. So let's get used to the idea of accepting that money is a flow. It's a flow of energy. It comes into your life. It goes out of your life. And hopefully you're overseeing that with some sense of control. I think that's the beauty of it, knowing that it comes in and goes out, but knowing that you are sort of the captain of the ship and you can decide on hopefully how much comes in and hopefully how much goes out and how much excess there is, and then what to do with that excess. So I think defining winning is incredibly important. Most people, I don't think, it's almost like the possibilities are infinite. So you don't want to put some kind of a limit on it. We do have these financial set points. That's part of our psychology around money, a place where we feel comfortable winning, and then a place that goes beyond our comfort zone. So whatever, you think of as a high salary might not be a very high salary to someone else, but that's your comfort zone. That's your set point. And whatever happens in your life, you're likely to get a little stuck there unless you push through, unless you allow yourself to accept that you deserve, can have, whatever term is going to work for you, that higher level of income. And, we all look at wealthier people thinking it's easier for them somehow. But when people get to those levels, typically they've had to do some breaking through. It hasn't been easy. Typically, the person making $100,000 who's about to go to $200,000, that's psychologically something they have to be okay with to make that happen. When you go from $1 million to 10 million, I hear this all the time from people, there's a new psychology that has to replace the old one that allows you to be comfortable with that. Again, there's work to do. It is like any other mind shift you're trying to do. You've got to figure it out. You've got to work at it. You've got to understand the underlying things that are difficult for you in that realm, and then fix those. So first, defining winning. Now, it is easier if you define winning for now, because we don't want to limit ourselves. So if you say, winning to me would be X amount of my retirement savings, X amount of my emergency savings, having this kind of house and this kind of car and this many vacations. I call this a wants budget. So when I work with people, I have them do a needs budget and a wants budget. The needs budget is what you need to live your life as you currently, with a few wants thrown in, like, added to that budget, savings for something or debt payoff or whatever. So it might be a little more than, it's not your survival budget. It's what you need to live the life that you want as you right now, and maybe in the next few years. The wants budget is more futuristic. It includes a lot of the kind of things that might be considered dreams or goals now. And you can cost those out, and you can figure out, what does it take, financially for me to be able to live this way? Typically, I think it's usually people find it's less than what they expected. So if you take a little time to do that exercise, you can figure out what winning looks for. Does that mean you can't change it later? No, absolutely not. You can change it all you want. So if you get to a point in 5 or 10 years and you want more, good. Just know where your finish line is so that you can at least feel good there for a few minutes. That doesn't mean you're not going to run a longer race next time, but you have to kind of, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this is important. It's not because you're going to have these things. It's not about the things at all. It's not about the money. It's the knowing that you took, you made some decisions, you took some action, that you can make things happen with money, that it isn't out of your control, and that you notice the wins. This is one of the biggest, I think, things that we should be disappointed in, is that we don't spend any time noticing our wins. We spend a lot of time noticing the losses. If we lose money on something, if we waste money on something, if we overspend on something, if we spend on something and it doesn't pan out, we put a big marketing campaign together and we don't get much out of it. All of these stack up because we're noticing those, man. We know when we spend money and it didn't work out for us. We could probably list a whole bunch of those in any given moment. That's what we're paying attention to. And that is never good in terms of manifesting what you want. We want to pay attention and focus on the things that we want. Doesn't mean we don't think about the things that happened and learn from them and try to examine them a little bit or be sad about them for a few minutes. But we have to think about what we want. And with money especially, it seems like we focus a lot. We notice money. Our relationship suddenly comes up and we notice it when something bad happens or when we do something that we wish we hadn't done. We aren't noticing as much the wins, even the small wins. So I had a client recently who she got some inheritance, and so that was really cool, right? So, that was a big win. That was a moment that she took notice. It made a difference, and she was having to figure out, what to do with it and everything else. So we talked about it, and because that felt really good, that gave her hope. That gave her hope in her future, ideas for, new things that she could do with that money. And it felt really good. So we're thinking, how do we get that feeling more often? So she was assigned to do some financial win tracking for a couple weeks. And for a couple weeks, every day it was a game. Every day, find the financial win. What did you do or what happened? And things do happen. Every now and then you just get a weird check in the mail. And so, we can have all kinds of financial wins. So here's a few of the things that she did. And she had to ask herself every day, what's my financial win today going to be? And in asking that question, she did some things that were on her list to do. So this wasn't without action. Sometimes things are without action. The inheritance was without action. It was a notable event in her financial life that she did not have to do anything particular, to make happen. But some of these other things, when you ask yourself the question, well, how can I have a financial win today? It might be that you pick up that T-Mobile cell phone bill and give them a call, which is one of the things that she did. And sure enough, she was paying at least $150 more a month than she needed to be. She did some other things. She moved some money into a higher yield savings account. She followed up on a retirement benefit that she'd almost forgotten about. And then, and that turned out to be something that was going to benefit her in the future. She did a couple other things. What were they? She paid off some debt, and she, what was the other one? She worked on, she saw that her credit score had gone up. That was something else that she had been working on. So, there's, I think, 5 wins right there. And she tracked them every day. And in tracking, oh my gosh, tracking is so important. Tracking is how we do feel good about things because we measure it. And, there's all these sayings about what we measure expands and what we have to track our progress. And we do that because for a moment, at least, we're noticing that we're making progress. And people really thrive in possibility. So when you see progress, you see possibility. And it is very comparable to running. When you run, you do a little more and you start seeing that and your set point changes for one thing. I remember when I was running, I had like a 3-mile set point. And no matter what happened, I could be feeling fine. And when I hit 3 miles, all of a sudden I was exhausted. So that was a set point for me on that. Totally a mind game. It had nothing to do with whether I could actually run another mile or two. It was just in my head, and suddenly my body just would get tired because I thought it should at 3 miles. So it's very similar with money. So if we don't believe we can have these wins, if we don't believe good things can happen to us with our money, or we can make things happen with our money, then, we're going to stay stuck. And so it's important to notice. It's important to notice wins. Anything you track, whether it's, your mileage when you're running or your money, it's very important to pay attention, to see, because not only do you see that, oh, I've made some progress. I mean, you could take all those and just quantify them, and it would be pretty interesting. Some of them, will help you now. Some of them will help you in the future, but there's definitely a money gain there. So noticing that you can create this on your own, there were things she did to make sure that these money wins were happening. So that's important. And just purely to notice that they exist, that you are, despite, the losses all over the place, you are winning. You can win. So I think, more than anything, this is about the psychology of money. This is about your behavior with money. And those need to be aligned in a positive way, in a way that feels like you're winning. And then if you actually know where you're trying to get to, then you can track that too. How much closer am I to my goal? They have all kinds of apps that track net worth and things like that. The whole point of that is for you to watch your net worth start going up. I use Credit Karma. I can watch my credit score going up or down. And when it goes down, I do something. So I feel so much more in control. And I just want you, I guess, to get an understanding too of, most people are walking around feeling out of control with money. Boy, every end of the month, I don't know where my money goes. I get so many comments about money that are indicative. They will clue you in to the fact that you just feel out of control, as if things just happen to you and you just have to roll with it. You have to get an extra job because this happened, or you have to go live with your parents because that happened. It doesn't feel good. It feels like you have no control, kind of like the weather, and you're just battling something that, is bigger than you. So let's shift that, because that is one of the crucial things. Knowing what to do, that's so easy, honestly. I mean, okay, I take that back. It's easy from the standpoint of there are a lot of people who can help you with that. There are a lot of coaches, there are a lot of books, there are a lot of podcasters. It's not easy in the sense that you can get very overwhelmed, because there is so much information and there are so many options for you. You can get a little paralyzed by too many decisions to make. So, that's a tough one too. That's actually a whole, other discussion about how to make decisions, about all those options. But it's so important to start with the feeling of, I can do this. I can have more wins. I can show them to you. They're right here on paper because I track them. And then when you have to figure out what to do with the excess money that you have, that's a different set of knowledge that you can get help with. So yeah, that's really my show for today. But what I wanted to say before is control. Control is huge, because when you feel like you have even a little more control, you get confidence, and confidence with money is something we don't really have either. People are very, that bag lady syndrome I talked earlier about, that is a very clear lack of confidence that you can keep what you have going. Control leads to confidence, and confidence leads to better decision making, because you're not making decisions out of fear. You're not making decisions out of, all the negative stuff. You're making decisions from a place that is empowered, where you feel good. It's like that post-run feeling, and you're making decisions from there. They're going to be bigger, bolder, more exciting decisions. So please don't underestimate the importance of your feelings with money. It's crucial. When you feel good, you're going to do better. And so, yes, you can feel good by being healthier and all those good things, but you can also feel good by paying attention to this relationship with your money in a way where you're seeing the positives. Again, very similar to regular relationships. You can go down a lot of paths where you see a lot of negatives in your partner, but you can also see the positives. And that reinforces this idea that this is a good thing. This is going to help me. This is going to give me what I want in my life, and allow me to contribute things that I want to contribute in my life. And it's the same with money. So I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope you'll go out there and track your financial wins. Put a little tiny spreadsheet together, write it down on a piece of paper, make it super simple. I find that people don't track when the tracking method is complicated. I give people a lot of tools that are ultra simple, like to me, kind of embarrassing, actually. They're so simple. But people always come back to me and just thank me for those. Like it helped them so much. So I guess the message to me is the stuff out there is frankly too complex. It's too time consuming. It's too much work. People don't learn it. So do the simplest thing that you can do to track your financial wins and make it a game. Okay, thank you so much for being here with me today on the Money and You Show. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate ubngo.com and for producing this. And I appreciate the fact that some of you like, share, and review the podcast. So if more of you will do that, I would be thrilled. And you can contact me at Michelle at Limit Free Life, 2 L's. And you can also learn more about my upcoming money dating program where I help you build that relationship with money through dating it. And I go with you on these dates and teach you a whole lot of stuff and help you more with these mindset ideas. So if you're interested, go to limitfreelife.com and you can read more about that. Join my newsletter and you'll also hear more about that. You can do that at limitfreelife.com. All right. Have a wonderful week. See you next time.